Welcome to Virtuous Society, the podcast where we explore the subtle art of building and scaling communities. I'm your host, Itamar, and today we have a great show for you. We have a super exciting guest. Her name is Koko. She is the head of growth for Goat Gaming. Koko was an actress on shows like Lazarus Project, The Gold, and Men Like Mobin. She worked in sales and marketing at Procter & Gamble and even spent a year in banking at Merrill Lynch. We dove into how her journey shaped her views about communities and marketing, and I learned a lot from it. So I hope you will as well. So, before we start, can you please explain the relationship between Goat Gaming and Mighty Bear? Because a lot of people kind of know you from both.
Yeah, sure. Mighty Bear Games is the studio that built Goat Gaming, and Goat Gaming is a platform for hundreds of games, all united by prizes and a PvP competitive nature.
Got it. So what's the difference between kind of the communities of both, between like the Mighty Bear community and the Goat Gaming community?
Well, so far, Mighty Bear Games has built its first game, which is Mighty Action Heroes. And Mighty Action Heroes has, over the last 18 months, built a community that's kind of rallied around the love of this game. And we've got a really great community of game players, but we're actually now going on to phase 2, which is housing the game on our platform. And the platform enables our tech stack to really kind of come alive, which is this competitive wagering stack. There's also specific Web2 gaming tech that's on the platform, as well as Web3, which is like gamification of NFTs and, wallet integrations and abstraction of accounts. And so all of that kind of is growing the whole project as a whole, and we're deploying more games that kind of fit within that theme. And as a result, we'll be kind of launching Goat Gaming at first as a standalone, and then sort of revealing as the process of unveiling goes that Mighty Action Heroes is the flagship game. So it's kind of merging these two kind of concurrent projects that have been running alongside each other for some time now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you provide us with a little bit of an overview as like regarding your role as head of growth for Goat Gaming?
Yeah. So my role is essentially to bring users to the ecosystem. So, platforms and games are kind of, they need people to play the game. So they're here to grow the community, grow the user base, and ultimately make for good revenue growth too.
How do you define the concept of community within the context of Web3 gaming technology?
Yeah, so community is a really, really big part of Web3 and Web3 gaming as a result as well. And I think the important thing to realize is that, every big game has a community. But beyond that, in Web3 gaming, you have the introduction of other key stakeholders inside of the community, which includes like investors or NFT holders or and not just players. You can also include partners and partner communities. And so all these kind of different folks is what makes up what a Web3 gaming community looks like. And they all have different needs. So it makes it a much more complex ecosystem of people.
Yeah, for sure. So in regards to kind of the relationship between Goat Gaming and Mighty Bear, do you expect all Mighty Bear or Mighty Action Heroes players to also be part of the Goat Gaming community?
Yes, so we will be merging the communities together. Essentially, we'll be sort of welcoming all the Mighty Action Heroes community into the Goat Gaming and sort of merging them together. And the important thing is that it doesn't really change for the Mighty Action Heroes community. They still have this game. We're still developing it. It's just housed in a place and alongside numerous other games that will make up the ecosystem. So it will grow and will have sort of sub-communities within a larger community, because naturally we expect people to kind of rally around the games within the ecosystem that they particularly are drawn to, whether it's Waifu Clash, which is one that's kind of dropping shortly after Mighty Action Heroes, or any of the other games that we launch.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to track back a bit.
Yeah.
And kind of ask, what were some of the earliest experiences that you had in online communities or just also in growth? And how did that shape your understanding of community dynamics in the context of Web3 gaming?
Well, I mean, in terms of online communities, for me personally, I guess I've grown up with it, right? We're back in the days of like, even when Facebook was kind of like the popular thing. And I also had, I was around for like the days of MSN, Messenger, even Yahoo chat. So, I think our generation has pretty much grown up with community being online as in a major part of our lives. So, when we see communities online here, it's in a different place. It wasn't always in Discord. In fact, I don't think I even really integrated Discord into my regular community building until 2021. But it's now such a huge part of Web3 communities. Just seeing where people congregate and seeing how like almost everything can happen online, whether it's value transfer, whether it's like meetings, whether it's games, right? So it really is kind of like the heart of where community lies these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you please kind of share some specific moments or experiences that led you into exploring Web3 technologies? Because like, how did you got red-pilled into the space pretty much?
Do you know, it's funny because I was an actor and I was also running my own company alongside being an actor back in pre-2020, right? And acting is actually in many ways like the community of acting. They're very critical of the government, and that's I guess this is a backstory that will kind of make sense as I kind of so we kind of always kind of railing against like all the things that the government do wrong, and very skeptical of politicians. And I've always had that kind of essence in me. And then in acting, I was always trying to kind of, I guess, make a difference through the art of storytelling, theater and art in general, right? But then 2020 came along and everybody was locked down, and I actually lost all my work. You just couldn't be an actor back then. And so I kind of was at home and stuck with nothing to do. And I started kind of, I was like, I haven't got any work. I haven't got any money coming in. I should start sort of becoming a little bit more aware of like what's going on with my finances. And so I started initially doing sort of like more education around for myself around how to become more financially astute. And then afterwards kind of read some books around investing and things like that. And then just when the algorithm on YouTube will start showing you crypto content after you've watched enough financial videos. And so then I just started watching crypto content and then kind of discovering Bitcoin. And then again, because I had the time, and I think this is kind of the special moment of lockdown, was that I don't think as a person I would have ever had the time to just really dive in so fully as I did in 2020. To really take my time to get to know like what Bitcoin was all about, and realizing that a lot of the values that I held back in my arts days still kind of are the same in the crypto, but we're in the crypto space, we're all kind of trying to make a difference in other ways. We're sort of almost like trying to create a whole new system in society using the blockchain. And kind of when that kind of fundamental element also clicked, because I think people do come in for the money, right? They kind of want to play in the crypto casino, and then once you get burned, you kind of lose 90% of people in the cycles. But I think what keeps some people here is that you can see the long-term value of it over the pain of like losing your gains at a specific moment in time.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Like starting off as an actor, like I said it in previous episodes as well. There is an art component into building communities, because it's the stuff that we are measuring aren't necessarily ones and zeros. Like it's not just about how many messages were sent in the channel, which is obviously something that we all track, but it's also about the quality of them and the quality of connections that are forming within the communities, which is very difficult, borderline impossible to measure. So it's interesting that you have that artistic background that led you into pretty much building the communities for both Goat Gaming and Mighty Mill.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you got a red pill pretty much in lockdown when you had the time to dive deeper into some complicated materials like many of us. And I wanted to kind of build on that and ask you, just because your background is extremely varied, I know some other stuff that you didn't necessarily mention. So I would like to ask, pretty much you got from acting to marketing consultancy, sales, and from my understanding, even a stint of banking at Merrill Lynch.
Yeah.
So please share that kind of journey, like those, I don't know how many years, but if you could share that will be, I think, very, very beneficial for the entire narrative of your journey.
Yeah. I think in my life, I've always tried to balance the desire for creativity with the desire to also make money, right? So my university degree was in arts and theater and English literature as well. And so I kind of always wanted to be an actor. But I went to a university that funnels a lot of students into banking. So I also got exposed to a lot of my friends who were just like kind of straight economy majors and going into banking. So like my friends influenced me and told me, this is what you should do. So I kind of explored that a bit, was able to talk my way into Merrill Lynch, but quite quickly realized that it wasn't for me. It was too structured. And then, so I kind of, that was 2008, just before the sort of financial crisis. And so I was like, oh, maybe this whole industry is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
It was kind of when everyone was peak hating bankers.
Interesting timing, for sure.
So then I kind of made the rounds for applications again. A lot of my friends told me this big company and that big company. It was all about sort of these corporate company opportunities. So then I got sort of sucked into another corporation, Merrill Lynch, Procter & Gamble. But actually, that was a really great learning for me because it was a very structured learning in terms of how to do sales, how to do negotiation, how to build like sales plans and marketing, kind of very commercial job. But again, as I kind of grew in that role, it became, again, very corporate. And I think I've always liked a bit of freedom, a bit of autonomy. And I wanted to, at that point, I had one of those life moments where I was like, what am I doing with my life? I wanted to be an actor. I did an arts degree. What am I doing all these kind of more typical jobs? So I took the plunge and sort of retrained as an actor. And then I spent 10 years doing acting. And acting is a boom and bust industry. You can have it great for 6 months and then have nothing for another 6 months. So I quickly realized I needed to sort of leverage the skills I'd gotten from my previous jobs and make them work for me in the kind of actor's resting time, right? So I kind of ran those two businesses concurrently. And then obviously, like I mentioned, 2020 came and in one fell swoop, all my work kind of disappeared, even the marketing side, because I had managed to get a lot of work through just my networks in the acting and arts world to be doing like marketing for arts companies or theaters. And so they kind of suddenly didn't need that. So this was kind of, I guess, a real opportunity to find something else. And there were a lot of problems I had in the industry, like that there are a lot of difficult challenges as being an actor that I think probably I was ready to move on from that time. So Web3 and crypto really just came at a time where I was ready to for a new challenge.
Yeah, to pretty much explore a new opportunity. Nice. What was the favorite thing you ever acted in?
There was one where I worked in a show called Man Like Mobeen. I don't know if you've heard of Man Like Mobeen. It's on Netflix now, I think.
Nice.
So it started off as a BBC comedy. And there's a real kind of, I guess, trend in the UK and in the States where comedians then start writing their own comedy shows. And so Guz Khan is quite a famous British comedian, and he wrote a comedy, and I played a little angry policewoman who used to give him a really hard time. And the comedy was like, I'm 5'2" and he's like 6 foot. And so like, I'm just like always like harassing him on the streets. And that was quite a fun role. Actually, I think it probably got me the most recognition I've gotten from being an actor. Yeah.
Nice. Really cool. So you acted as a policewoman, and now you are a policewoman in the Mighty Bear and the
I
Ghost
hope
Gaming
not a
community.
policewoman. Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
I
I'm
hope
joking.
no, I'm kidding.
It's part
But
of the role, obviously, to keep
yeah,
things like
in control.
chilled.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
very interesting. That's a
yeah,
very interesting journey, for sure.
yeah.
There's a lot there to kind of unpack, but I would like to probably just focus on what were the biggest challenges, because it is a fairly big transition, like being 10
Oh,
years in the industry and then moving into a different one. So what did you find most challenging in that transition?
yeah. So interestingly, in many ways, actually, acting and Web3 are very similar. Like I said, they're both kind of groups of people who are almost on the fringes of society in many ways. And then both acting and Web3 are like very boom and bust industries. Like, even though I think I've got it good right now, I've got a steady job, and I think I have real strong conviction in this project that I'm working in now. And but back in the day, like, there are projects that come and go, and you can one minute have a job, and the next minute there's just no money coming in. And I think that was one thing like actually kind of rolled with quite easily, because that's just like kind of bread and butter of acting.
Yeah, you were used to it pretty much.
Yeah, but one of the challenges I think is very stark difference from Web 2 and Web 3 is just that the pace at which everything moves in Web 3. So Web 3, I don't think anybody is prepared for how quickly things move, right? So
yeah, it's insane.
Web 2, it's insane. Like, you kind of build something, you learn something, you sit, and then you sort of iterate on it. Or there's playbooks that are tried and tested, and you learn from your seniors, and it's passed down, this kind of learning, and then you just, do that. Whereas in Web3, first of all, the tech moves rapidly, but also like the playbooks are just being built as we speak. A playbook is built and then it's smashed to pieces, and then it's like not a good idea to do it that way. And then somebody else comes up with another meta. And I think as creating a business inside of Web3 is a lot of trial and error and experimentation. And I guess, I love that, but also it's quite exhausting just trying to keep up. Especially for example, for the last 2 to 3 months, I've been sort of onboarding into Mighty Bear Games. And when you're kind of head down trying to learn one thing, you kind of take your eye off the ball with, like, say, the market or the current meta on Twitter, and you can really feel like you've missed a lot. And even though you may have just not looked at Twitter for a week, Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would say the speed of this market that we are in and of this space is something that either pulls people in or really steers them away. Like, if you love it, if you enjoy kind of the chaotic nature of it, I think you shine. But if you're not prepared to the shit show that is Web3, then it would very much like pull you down. Okay, so I wanted to ask just to go over a bit of the let's say the more strategic, kind of dive deeper into your mind and how you're operating both the Mighty Bear and the Goat Gaming communities, and how you're thinking about it really. What would you say are the most, say, effective strategies that you've used in order to engage users?
So I think strategies, are different based on company to company. And I think it's really important, first of all, for a project to understand, like, what is its strengths, like real strengths that make it stand out compared to others. And then how can you build the community around that strength, because that you can deliver on that, right? So it's like, for example, I think Mighty Bear's strength, and this is something that really attracted me to the team, is that Mighty Bear can really ship quite quickly. When in Web 2, they were shipping like a game every 8 to 12 months. And in Web 3, they've actually committed, we have actually committed to truly building games and tools for the market that we're delivering for, which is Web3, which is also a market that is, like I said, 100 miles a minute, right? And in order to deliver for that audience, you need to actually make your product fit that audience. And what I mean by this is how do you look at like the production of a game and then tailor it to Web3? And that's the process that I loved that they kind of went through, where it's like, okay, the Web3 audience doesn't need a perfect game, but they want something playable, and they want something fun, and they want something that they can maybe grow with over time. Because if you peel back to the community layer, you're not just dealing with players. You're dealing with players, stakeholders, investors, NFT holders, people who want to go on that journey with you. So when Web2 spends a year behind closed doors building a game and then sort of opening that door at the end, that's not how it works in Web3, right? So what I think are the strategies we're doing well is kind of recognizing that and then tailoring our strategies for that. So right now, we're going to be shipping for Goat Gaming, a little bit of alpha. We'll be shipping a game every 2 weeks across the Play to Airdrop meta.
Nice.
Through the Goat Drop season. And that is, part of that cadence was to kind of really surprise and delight the audience. An audience that typically is waiting and gets frustrated with game teams for just delivering slowly or not at all. And not to say that that's a bad thing, because the truth is maybe the audience needs to realize that games take time to build. But I think also as game builders, we have to realize that we're in a market that's completely new, and maybe we need to look at like the production flow. And actually, that's another thing, is like the team has actually looked at what needs to go into production and what needs to be taken out of production in order to condense the timeline, right? And again, that goes to like, what are the standard expectations in building a game in Web2, and how do we radically change that to deliver for a Web3 market?
Yeah, and also kind of aligning the expectations with the community, because as you said, it's not like Web2. Web2, it's users and it's customers. You're paying, you're getting fun in return. That's kind of the deal. In Web3, you're kind of flipping the script. People want to be early in order to potentially earn from them being early, obviously. But it also means that you are now building in the open with a lot of people who are criticizing a lot of your moves and could be sometimes impatient. I think now we're seeing it more, like in the bear market. I would say we had very quiet year for Game 7. Like in terms of a lot of the stuff were just beyond the closed doors, but the community was very much on board. Like we haven't heard too many people kind of insisting us to ship more or move faster, and then that swiftly changed this year. This year, the expectation was completely different, and I think kind of everyone in the space really adjusted. It feels like everyone, well, not everyone, but I would say a lot of the entities that we assume will still be here were building slowly, and then when the sentiment slightly shifted and shipping time was upon us, people started shipping, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, there's different caveats with that type of persona, which we're just now really unfolding, because as you said, there is no playbook. It's just us.
Yeah.
Kind of paving
figuring
the way.
it out.
Yeah. Really much breaking walls in order to see what works and what
with your
doesn't.
head.
Yeah, that's the I would say the mainstream strategy. Okay, so have you? Oh, not have you, but how have you? If that was your focus, how have you enabled community members to have deeper connections? Because it's difficult when the game is in alpha phase or is building. We haven't mentioned it yet, but Mighty Action Heroes is really good. Like we obviously have the quest in Dungeons and Degen, so I played a lot of Mighty Action Heroes in order to complete the quest. But it was super fun. Like it was really good. And I think the first time that I've played it was in ECC, I believe, something along those lines. Like I think so. and the improvements were amazing. Like it was really fun. So I think, like, I'm not sure how you are planning to tackle it, but since the users in Web3 gaming are not necessarily just players, but also ambassadors, also investors, also like so many other things, how do you enable that deeper connections to happen?
Yeah, so you mentioned a really good point earlier about how do we make our community tailor-made to the Web3 audience, especially when they're not always there for the game. And I think one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle is forming a deeper connection with people as individuals, right? Because even if you're an investor, right, you want to get to know the team. You want to get to know the leadership. And actually, that's often a big chunk of it. And I think it's a really hard one that a lot of founders, including myself, especially, I mean, I founded a project a while back, and that was one of the first kind of big sort of eye-opening moments is you don't just build a project and like a typical founder where you just kind of run and do all these things, but you've got to actually be there at the ground level with your community and just get sort of stuck in the mud with them and answer questions and be real, because people expect that realness, expect that authenticity from you. And if you can't deliver that, that's a really big hurdle that your project will have to overcome. So building that relationship, making people realize that you are real humans. And once people get to know you, then you can have some real conversations around, like, what your vision is for the project, what your challenges are, right? People can really understand and they go on that journey with you. So when you say, hey guys, like any project, we have to delay the launch by a week, there is that foundational relationship where hopefully at least the long-term community members can understand, right?
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Because there's always going to be bumps on the road. It's just whether or not we can get that communication and relationship building with the community down so that they can understand, like, the decisions that we make and all sort of reach Valhalla together,
Yeah, pretty much building the trust. So
yeah.
How do you kind of facilitate it? Do you have like a weekly something or a monthly something that you are doing with the community and get the team to talk in like an AMA type of thing? Or is it just like daily interactions on Discord, both?
Yeah, it's both. I think the main community focus right now is in Discord. We have things like top of the funnel, and Twitter and YouTube, but it truly is Discord, where people have these kind of more personal conversations. But I think we're trialing different ways in which to do that, because I think the typical way of doing it is AMAs, right? You're on stage with the team and you let people come up. And I think personally, as a community member myself, I sometimes feel that there is a limitation in doing it just that way, because we have many, many, many people in the community who are quiet and don't necessarily feel comfortable.
Yeah, just lurking.
Yeah, even sometimes writing in a chat that's very busy is difficult for some people. So we're trying out another thing called office hours, where actually you make this kind of routine thing where the team will just sit on a channel and in a VC kind of on a regular basis, and maybe nobody shows up, maybe one person shows up, but because there's that consistency, the community comes to find that is this kind of spot where they can drop in, ask one question, say hello, get to know someone, and then drop out again. There's no kind of need to be there or have it formalized in any way. I also sort of truly believe that the other way to kind of build community is be where the people are. So Simon, for example, has been doing this podcast called 2-Player Mode with his partner Felicia, and they've been doing this great podcast for many months now. And actually we were thinking, well, okay, there's a world in which we could stream it on video now, straight to Twitter, because now Twitter is kind of pushing the boundaries of, video content. And thought, well, that will hopefully push further because people are looking for more video content. And then with technologies like Restream or StreamYard, you can push it to YouTube too. And so it kind of gives it a push. And this podcast is kind of like a more of a passion podcast, and it's another opportunity to get to know our team in a more indirect way, right? It's just them talking about the industry and their expertise over 20 years of being in, Simon in gaming, but Felicia in investing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we share. Like the office hours is something that we are doing, I think, ever since I joined the team.
Yeah.
Which really build our, let's say, they're called guardians in Game 7. So pretty much our OGs. Those are people who, like Game 7 started as a developer community, really. So we had a lot of people they're still there, but they're working on a lot of stuff. So they don't necessarily have the time to spend, like, I don't know, like 8 hours on Discord every day. They can't really do that. So we had just spaces for them to hop on, and they would be kind of in the loop of what we are doing and propose changes and feedback and be pretty much as cutthroat as possible in order to help us move ahead. And I think that those people are invaluable for what Game 7 has become. And that was solely built of just us, like, in voice chat, jamming for an hour and a half, maybe more, about whatever's going on in Game 7, and everyone kind of putting their thoughts into it. So we very much share that. And also now with the podcast platforms, I think that there is pretty much a demand, in a way, from user bases or just communities to get to know the team better. There's two reasons to that, really. One, you have stake, you have like skin in the game. If you are an early member and you want to keep the team accountable, one, and you want to get to know the team to a further degree, to be like, okay, who are those guys really? And secondly, I think that it helps people to understand how we think as humans, not necessarily, like, obviously we're talking about like Mighty Bear and the space and Web3 gaming and that type of stuff, but I'm interested in communities. Like, that's my thing. Like, I try to understand that part of our world or this world as to the best degree that I could, just because I think it's a necessity for this day and age to build better communities, because the communities that we had previously are kind of no longer there, if that makes sense. Like religious ones and the traditional communities that people were used to assign themselves to were pretty much replaced with online communities, and no one really explored the transition. It doesn't feel like we know how to do it. So I think it helps not just the project, but it also keeps the team more accountable to be pretty much to be more transparent and to have better communication with the community, because those will be the best critics and the best feedback you could get, because those are the users that are actually using the thing that you are building. And the fact that we have them participate in every single stage is amazing on one hand. It's completely terrifying and and anxiety producing on the other hand, but I think the result is overall better. So yeah, we have a lot of things that we are sharing in terms of how we approach pretty much the team interacting with the community, which is interesting. I wanted to ask for a bit of like lessons learned. So if you reflect on your career in community building, in growth, what are some of the most valuable lessons that you think you've learned?
Yeah, I think I have learned a lot over the times. I think with crypto and Web3, things are very, lessons are very potent and fast. I think the number one thing, I think, especially when it comes to community, is you have to take the time to build trust, right? You can employ loads of strategies to drive excitement and speculation, but what happens is those are beats and moments to draw in people, and in this space you will lose them just as quickly as you got them if you don't really take the time to figure out why people should care and why people should stay in your space with your project. And I think we touched on a kind of a lot of these things about like trust, listening, good communication, and it's easier said than done, because even though you might have the best will in the world, like there's a lot of planning and a lot of effort that goes into delivering information, not only consistently, but also in a way that people can understand. I think it's a challenge also, like particularly that we at Mighty Bear Games are really deeply thinking about at the moment, because we have Mighty Bear Games Studio, we have Mighty Action Games, Mighty Action Heroes, the game, and then Goat Gaming, the platform. And how do we bring together these kind of concepts and projects in a way that people understand, are excited about, and can join us in that long-term vision and, to build something really special.
Yeah. It's also when you're trying to build something that is new and novel, it's also very difficult to explain like fast. Like if you want someone to just come across a post on Twitter and understand completely, okay, I want in because I understand what's that about, that's really challenging. It's very difficult to do, because you can compare it to really anything else, because everyone is trying something that is somewhat novel. Not everyone, but a lot of different entities are now trying their own version of what they think would be successful, and it doesn't necessarily something that we've seen before. So it's very difficult to communicate in a way that is simple and direct and be like, okay, I get it. And that's something that we have really, really, really tried to solve. I think that we are doing a better job now, but it was extremely challenging. So I really feel you there.
Yeah, I mean, the other challenge is you want to lay out all the information on the table, but also people can get overwhelmed. And so you also have to kind of plan like chunks of information so it can land and be absorbed in a way that kind of is good for the project and good for the community.
So how do you kind of envision Goat Gaming evolving within the next like few months, years?
Oh, that's a big question. Definitely in the few months, I think people are going to quickly realize what we're about, because we've been talking about it to quite a few of our friends and partners and investors. And it's, like you said, it's one thing to explain it to them. It's another thing to show it to them and let them experience it for themselves. And luckily for us, we only started talking about it really in March, and we're really happy to be able to be shipping it like next week. And so...
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we're trying to like infuse into the whole company's ethos is the fast shipping. And so, yeah, things might break, things may not go perfectly, but we kind of are prepared for that, and gonna just make sure that we're prepared to just continue to keep building and make it as good as we can. And that's the nature of Web3, right? You experiment and you iterate. And then if we're talking about a year from now, I envision that we have now a platform which has a number of different games. It's very, very clear how the meta of each of the games is united across the whole platform. And then we are actually prototyping this right now, but we'll be working with partner studios to co-develop games that kind of outsource some of the tasks required, just to improve the sort of pipeline to make shipping even faster, to get to that sort of 100 game level. But because we want to curate to a certain level these games, we don't want to just open it up and say, come build. It's actually more of a curated experience to make sure that there's a consistency across the games, not just in the type of game that it is, but also the quality of game that it is.
Nice. Exciting stuff. Really exciting. So, what future, like, let's say, trends and developments you see shaping the landscape of communities? Something that I like to ask, like a bit of predictions.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I think I wonder sometimes if we're at our final destination with even where communities congregate, right? Because especially in crypto, we were always a Telegram-based community, and then we moved to Discord because I think Discord, frankly, has much more advanced capabilities.
Okay.
But I wonder if there's going to be a cycle back to Telegram, because a lot of people have been talking about Telegram and sort of their 900, their gaming platform. I've even noticed if you jumped into Fantasy Top's Telegram channel, they somehow managed to have like sub channels and like a very sort of Discord-esque experience inside of there. So I was thinking, okay, so Telegram is building, and you just never know. I think the spaces in which we congregate is going to evolve, simply because I'm not yet sure that Discord does the bestest job. I think, there could be more of a seamless experience. People congregate. If you think about when like Facebook first started, and you could have like Facebook Marketplace where you send money to PayPal and you can buy someone's, I don't know, old camera or whatever, right? And we kind of do that in crypto with wallets, but it's not easy to just meet someone on Discord because there's so many scams going around. If there was a community platform that has inbuilt value transfer to purchase real things and play games, I mean, kind of points to Telegram, but we actually don't know. There could be this kind of whole other platform that comes out, and I'm really excited to kind of find that platform. And I think to add into that, there's also the social fi element, right? So people are kind of crying out for some kind of relationship between social clout and value transfer and gamification. All these kind of bits and pieces have been tried in different ways, from as old as BitClout, if anybody remembers that, to Friendtech, to Fantasy Top. But actually, currently the truth is Twitter still rules because it has the network effect. It has the eyeballs. So it's going to be a while before we see anybody dethrone Twitter. But I think that there is room for it to happen, because there's just so much limitation with the way that Twitter is, just because it's Web 2, that you can't transfer value. You can't, unless of course Elon Musk decides to kind of
that's the wild card.
It's the wild card, right?
The biggest Twitter killer will be X. That's a possibility.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So let's see.
For sure, that's exciting. So I want to, like, for just to kind of close us off, what would you say, or what would you offer for aspiring community builders, people who are into like Web3 marketing or just gaming, to make an impact? Like, how would you advise them in order to make an impact within the Web3 space?
I think if you're looking to be like a community leader or like manage communities, I think the first thing that you definitely need experience in is actually being a member of a community. Because a lot of the times it baffles me, decisions that sort of teams make that don't almost sit well on a logical level, right? And if you've been a member of a community, if you've been there early, you've bought a project's assets, you've felt the full sort of range of emotions when it comes to the decisions that people make, and you'll find, like, just sitting in that space, like what people are talking about, what matters to them, why they keep coming back to the same community space, what makes people tick in that way. And so I think that's what another sort of superpower I think I love about Mighty Bear Games is all of us in the leadership and beyond is we're all actually involved in different NFT communities, gaming communities, and so we kind of... In the trenches, right? And so you instinctively know if a decision is going to make or break. And that's one of the reasons, like one of the challenges I mentioned, how we kind of bring together the three communities. And one of the things that is repeatedly coming up and we very much care about protecting is the existing community from Mighty Action Heroes, and making sure that they feel like they're fully brought into the family in a way that makes them feel like we care for them and we really want them in our community, right? And that takes action, not just words.
For sure, 100%. That's a really good way to close things up. So this conversation was really good. I very much hope that we can do it again, possibly in a few months or whatever time when both of us will make some progress, both Game 7 and Goat Gaming, because it will be interesting to touch base then, because both we're working on a lot of interesting stuff, and I think if you want to first and foremost kind of try both, really, I would really urge people to go for the Mighty Action Heroes quest in the Game 7 portal. You will pretty much have the experience of both at the same time, which is which is really fucking amazing. So I really want to thank you for pretty much all the valuable insights and the knowledge and sharing your journey as well, and kind of more on the personal end, kind of sharing more about yourself, which was very very enlightening and very interesting to hear. So I really want to thank you for taking the time and being here. I want to encourage everyone that is listening to this or watching this to connect with you and follow you on social media. I believe the Twitter handle is Citizen906. Is there a story behind it?
That's correct. It's actually back in the day when I was a die-hard Neo Tokyo community member. I still am I'm not as die-hard because I'm just obviously busy, but I really loved the gamification of joining that community and sort of found some lifelong friends there. So nice. Citizen906 is all about that.
Really cool. Cool. And
thank you for having me.
In LinkedIn. So
yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
For sure. So just to sign us off, as always, to everyone that is listening or watching, your support is very important to us in bringing even more incredible guests to the show. If you are subscribing or sharing or following, every little bit just helps us get this show better and better, pretty much. So if you could help this show by subscribing or by liking it or by sharing it, I can promise you that I can do everything in my power in order to make it better. And I really want to thank you, Koko, and we'll catch you on the next one.